Welcome, folks. There are two basic emotions, love and fear. We primarily use the emotion of fear. If you think about your day, how many things are prompted out of love? Love means that we want an attachment to the thing, a bond. Fear means that we're fearful that if we don't do this thing, what the consequence will be. So the love feels the connection, the fear feels the consequence. Now, of course, the lower level of fear is the punishing consequence. That's a lower level of fear, is that we feel or we're sensing, right? We're feeling that if I say this nasty thing, there's going to be I'm afraid of the nasty consequence.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? That person might not want to talk to me again, right? Or whatever the case may be. So that holds us back. Many of the things that we do it because out of fear that if I don't do it, either what someone might think or how I'm going to feel. I'm going to feel guilty. Mm-hmm. So that leads me not to do, that I do something. So I pray today, and if I did it out of fear, because if I don't, right, how am I going to feel? I feel guilty. Mm-hmm. So therefore I got to pray. But of course, this is a much lower form of fear, right? The fear that the Alter Rebbe speaks about is a different type. What is that? Well, welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We continue in chapter 44. And in this chapter, we're speaking primarily about two types of love. Two types of love. One is that God is the source of my life. Right? By the way, the next meal is not the source of your life. God is. Mm-hmm. By the way, going to work is not the source of your life. God is. Mm-hmm. Right? So imagine recognizing that truth. You go to work differently. You eat differently. You probably wouldn't need so many diets, if any diets at all, because if the food is the source of my life, so then I'm dependent on it. Now, actually, that's even a healthy thing. Mm-hmm. Most people don't eat food for its nourishment. We eat food for its pleasure. But imagine, that God is your life, so therefore you see food and you see work as a means of connection to God. That's the internal true reality of what all of that is. And therefore, whatever you engage in, you see it as God giving you sustenance. He's the one giving you sustenance. He is the source of life. Well, obviously, then you're going to, instead of loving work or loving the food, you're going to love God. Right?
You would love what?
You would love God.
Oh.
Instead of loving work, instead of loving food, you would love God. Because you appreciate that He is your sustenance. He's your life. He's your very soul, your very Vitality, your very being. Right? And of course, we love life, or we desire life, maybe is a better word, not love. We desire life more than anything else, right? By the nature of the human condition. So when we recognize, how precious life is, and we usually don't, because every breath we take for granted. When do we recognize how precious life is when that breath might be a little hard to take. Like, if you ran the 4-minute mile after that, yeah, where's the water? Where's the, where's the air to breathe?
Yeah,
Yeah, especially if you never did it.
more so.
That's right. Yeah. So you need vitality. You need that nourishment. You really appreciate then the water. Really appreciate that big gulp of air, right? So likewise, when it comes to God, that He is the source of our life, and that's what we really love. That you have that water after that run. Oh boy, it's returning, restoring your vitality, your soul. You really love it. Well, that's the form of love that we're talking about in this first level. Now, the second one is, as we've been speaking the last few days, is that as a son is ready to give up his life for his parents that are in captivity, is the metaphor, right? For Moses and his love of God, that he loves God more than he loves life itself. And therefore ready to put himself in harm's way because to do for God, as the son will do for his parents, right? Is the metaphor. Right. So meaning on this level of love is even more profound. And as the Alter Rebbe explained to us, seemingly that's way beyond, that's a bar that's way beyond us.
Mhm.
And as the Alter Rebbe explained to us, it's not delusional because it is something that's the nature of the soul, the true divine nature of the soul, even though we may not be attuned to it, but it is. And therefore, by habituating yourself to this, by thinking this way, to do for God the mitzvah, like we're doing now, studying Torah, to give God divine pleasure, to give Him the pleasure rather than me having the pleasure. Not that we don't have the pleasure. It's not that we don't have the pleasure. It's that our intent or our mindfulness, at least, is to give God the pleasure from our learning, from our mitzvahs, from our lives. That's, by the way, just a point that I'd like to share that's not here in the Tanya, but this is what it means, a chassid of a Rebbe. Chassid of the Rebbe wants to give nachas to the Rebbe. And it's based on this idea to give it to God Almighty, to give the divine pleasure to God. So by chassidim, to have, this is a very lofty level to do it for God. But for a Rebbe an individual who was a person, a holy person, and not just a holy person, not just a righteous person. A Rebbe is, a Rebbe. A Rebbe, as even Rashi and Chumash will tell us, if you have Moses on one side of the scale and all of the Jewish people on the other side of the scale, they're equal, right? They're equal. That's how, because the Moses of the generation is an embodiment of all the souls of the generation. Very powerful. That's a Rashi and Chumash, by the way, even, right? In any case, the point that I'm going to bring out over here, this idea to do it for God and to give God pleasure, by Chassidim, they express this by giving nachas to the Rebbe. But the Rebbe should have nachas. So, for example, when we write into the Rebbe, so we write in Basura a good tidings, something that should give pleasure. And usually when you write in, like when you make a call to like the son makes a call to his father, he needs something, right? That's why he's making the call. Well, we shouldn't just make the call when we need something from God. Make the call just to say thank you, appreciation. So we, as Chassidim, we do that right into the Rebbe, and even the intent that we do something, we hope that this will give nachas, will give pleasure to the Rebbe. And by the way, the Rebbe would respond office. Vitach, tshuvas chen, response of pleasure from what you have done, and so on and so forth. So this is but that was a parenthetical remark. Mm-hmm. Now, getting back over here to these two loves that we're talking about. So, right, that God is your true life, your real, the source of life, and that He is your true Father, and that you're ready to give, that your connection to God as your Father is greater than even life itself. This is something that's an inheritance. We don't create this reality. It's an inheritance from our patriarchs. In their merit, God implanted that in their descendants, in their soul. It's a natural instinct of our souls, right? That love. Mm-hmm. But together with that love is also fear, because you can't have love without fear. Can't have fear without love. Although you could have fear without love, the truth is. Right? As we'll see in a moment. What is the fear here? The fear is not fear of punishment. Remember, that's never been discussed in Tanya. It is discussed in Torah, because Torah will speak to the child in us. And the child in us knows consequences, and therefore will speak about fear in the form of we'll speak about fear in the form of a consequence, reward and punishment. Tanya, the reward is the experience of connection. Mm-hmm. The punishment then is fear of losing it. Losing the connection, exactly. The fear of losing the connection, being cut off from God. That cut off here don't mean early death. Yeah. That's not what it means. It means cut off in the moment. Mm-hmm. That if I say something nasty, or if I think something inappropriate, or do something that's wrong, in that moment I'm cut off. Mm-hmm. Not that I will have, right? In other words, I'm cut off in the moment from my connection to God. Mm-hmm. That's what the fear means, right? So that's equally there, a part of the soul. That's an inheritance, right? In other words, it's a reality in me. And that inheritance means it's coming from beyond me. And that's also similar to what, if you recall, in chapter 43, we spoke about also something, a love of God that's beyond us. Mm-hmm. That was called Avarabba, a magnanimous love, delighting in God. That's a gift that God gives us. Well, in a sense, this is also a gift in our soul. What we can do is one of two ways to bring about that reality that's gifted to us in our soul. And one is that we contemplate about it in such a manner that it actually brings a palpable feeling in our hearts, right? A palpable feeling of love and fear, right? Love of God, that He is our true life. Love of God, that He is my Father, right? And then when I have that kind of inspiration, that kind of motivation, that kind of intent, then the mitzvah that I will engage in thereafter, right, will then ascend with its two wings, as we've learned earlier, will ascend to the world of Bria, the world of divine comprehension, the highest world of creation, right? This is in the Zohar calls this Re'usa de Liba, the heart's desire. It's a more exalted love, right? That goes to the 10 spheres, the 10 divine attributes in the world of Bria, and has a eternity to it, because it's connecting to the divine attributes. The divine attributes are one with God in those worlds. And therefore, just as God is eternal, so then that mitzvah being propelled to the world of Bria has an eternity to it, right? If it's not motivated with an intent that is bringing you to a heartfelt feeling, right? But it's an intellectual love. It remains in the mind, right? An intellectual love, or in the heart, what we call an understanding heart, not a feeling heart, understanding heart, right? So it's not a palpable feeling, right? So then the mitzvah also rises up, but to the world of Yetzirah, right? The world of formation, a lower world, which is a world of more divine emotion, because it was not compelled and therefore propelled by intelligence feeding the heart, but it's just the nature of the soul that's in the heart, and without without the true palpable feeling of the heart, and therefore goes to the world of Yetzirah, to the 10 divine attributes there, and also has an eternity to it, because those 10 divine attributes are also connected with the Ein Sof of God, right? Also has. So both that love and fear will then propel it to those worlds, and through that connection. That's the brief thought that I made it long. Of the two. Okay. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts?
So the two wings that we discussed were the lower was the fear and the
Two wings are love and fear.
Love and
The
fear,
right
yeah.
wing is love. The left wing is fear.
Yeah.
Right? Love is the desire to connect, and fear is the desire not to be disconnected. Right?
Okay.
Not to be disconnected. Huh?
That's Chesed and Gevura.
Chesed and Gvura, exactly. Well, how's Chesed and Gvura love and fear?
Yeah, but Chesed would be,
Chesed is kindness, and Gvura is strength. The strength of refrain, right? Biting your tongue, taking that strength, for example, that's refrain, right? So how's that love and fear?
what's that level there? How is
Well, it's love and kindness. Those are two different things, right? Love is love, kindness is kindness, right? Gvura is refrain, strength, and fear. What's the connection? Well, who do you do an act of kindness to? Person you love.
Yeah.
So love is the inner dimension of kindness that propels the kindness, that motivates, compels rather.
Yeah.
That propels, compels, both, right? The kindness, right? So the inner dimension is love. The outer dimension will be the expression of that love will be in the act of kindness,
Yeah.
right? Right? Fear is the inner dimension that will lead you to bite your tongue,
Yeah.
right? Or to not do
Right,
something
right.
that you shouldn't do. Why?
Yeah.
Because the fear of disconnect. So that's the inner dimension. If you recall in chapter 3 of Tanya, which has been a while back, there the Alter Rebbe, when he's describing the 10 divine, the 7 emotions of the soul, of the divine soul, he called them kfulos. The word kafel means doubles. Each one is a double, because there's the outer dimension of the emotion, how it expresses itself, and the inner aspect of it that compels and propels the expression of that emotion, as we just explained with the love compelling or propelling and expressing kindness, and fear that will express itself in strength of refrain, of holding back. Okay? Very good. Okay.
Hmm.
Any questions here? I don't see any questions.
The connection for the fear of losing connection.
What?
You have to know what the connection is before you fear losing it. You have to
I mean, a
feel-
lot of it sometimes could be instinctual, and for a child doesn't know. A child, there's a child, there's a 2-year-old child walking with their mother in a mall that's busy. Does it understand what it means to be bonded to the mother? Doesn't understand it, but is the child bonded? Yes. Does the
Yeah.
child fear to let go of the hand of the mother because there's a lot of people and afraid to get lost? Yeah. Does it understand? Maybe the fear it understands. It doesn't understand the love. So we primarily will understand more fear
Yeah.
because fear is much more real to us than love,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Right? Well, it's just the nature of things, right?
Hello?
Okay.
So songbird means to be cut off. Right? What's the word that I was curious about?
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let us just say a brief hello to Joseph in New Jersey. Brett is in Pennsylvania. John in North Carolina. We have Heroic I can't remember now. You have to remind me. Boker Tov. Akoy in Lima, Peru. David and Liba in New York. TJ is with us in Melbourne, Australia. We have Patricia in Pennsylvania. Clem in Brisbane, Australia. Diane in South Carolina. Who else is here with us? Daphne, no, Daphne in South Carolina. Diane is in Arizona. Learning for the hostages, folks. Yes, let's keep in mind the hostages and do for them.
I have a question.
Susanna from Miami. Yes, just give me
Yeah.
one brief moment. Absolutely. Mordecai, Massachusetts. Cindy in Florida. David in California. Joe is with us in Olympia, Washington State. Edward in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Joe. Oh, okay. Carmen in Texas. Rena in Colorado. Diane in Pennsylvania. Samuel in India. Irma in St. Martin. Who else is there? Joyce is in Philadelphia. Julie in Brookline, Massachusetts. Michelle, welcome. Eugenia is in Calgary, fellow Canadian. Lori in Fort Myers, Florida. We have it is Myrna is in Montreal. All right. We have Tova with us. Who else is joining us? Alyssa, Diana, Rachel in South Carolina. You can watch the Rambam class on Zoom. It's coming up. 770, 770, 6085. We have Frank in Melbourne, Australia. Or on youtube.com/Tanya Rabbi.
On YouTube going.
All right, folks. As always, a pleasure. Privilege and pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zich and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. Wishing you a good Chodesh, a new month, Iyar. Iyar, Ani Hashem Reifecha. I am God, your healer. We got some healing today through what we learned. Thank you all for joining.